Captain William Hayes stood motionless on the observation deck of the Earth battleship Defiance. His eyes were fixed on the planet below. New Seattle Colony was now just a collection of smoking craters where cities once stood. 6,000 human lives lost in less than an hour. The Tarisian warships still hung in orbit like hungry sharks, their purple hulls gleaming in the light of the distant sun. "They didn't even warn them," said Lieutenant Olivia Martinez. She stood beside Hayes, her dark eyes red from unshed tears. "Those were families down there, farmers, teachers, children." Hayes nodded. His square jaw was tight with anger. And the Federation did nothing to stop it. For 20 years, humanity had played by the Alien Federation's rules. They had been patient, respectful, diplomatic. Earth had signed unfair treaties. They had paid excessive fees to use trade routes. They had limited their expansion to only approved star systems, all to earn their place in the galactic community, and this was their reward, a massacre. Hayescom unit beeped. "Captain Hayes, report to secure communications immediately." In the small, shielded room, Hayes stood at attention as the hologram of Admiral Catherine Powell flickered into view. Powell was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. "Captain, I've just come from an emergency meeting of the Earth Security Council," she said. Her voice was calm, but Hayes could see the rage burning behind her eyes. "The diplomatic corps has been recalled from all Federation worlds." Hayes felt his heart beat faster. In Earth's history, such a move had only preceded one thing: directive. "Fate 9 is now in effect," Powell continued. "You are authorized to demonstrate what humanity is capable of when diplomacy fails." Hayes swallowed hard. "Fate 9, ma'am? Are we certain?" "The Federation has had 20 years to treat us as equals. Instead, they see our restraint as weakness. They believe we need them more than they need us." Powell leaned forward, her hologram seeming to grow larger. "It's time to correct that misunderstanding. Yes, ma'am. Your new orders are being transmitted now. The Tarisians believe they have broken us. Show them how wrong they are." The hologram vanished, leaving Hayes alone with the weight of what was to come. Back on the bridge, Hayes found his crew at their stations. They all knew about New Seattle. Many had friends or family among the dead. "Lieutenant Martinez, gather the senior staff in the war room," Hayes ordered. "We have new orders." 10 minutes later, Hayes looked at the grim faces around the table. His most trusted officers waited for him to speak. As of 0600 Earth Standard Time, all diplomatic relations with the Alien Federation have been suspended, Hayes said. The Federation Council was given ample opportunity to prevent this attack. Not only did they fail to act, but evidence suggests several council members, including the Tarisian ambassador, approved the strike. He touched a control and a holographic map of Federation space appeared above the table. "We've been holding back," he continued. "For 2 decades, we've hidden our true military capabilities to avoid alarming the Federation. That ends today." Commander Frank Wilson, the weapons officer, leaned forward. His eyes widened as he studied the display. "Sir, are those our actual forces?" Hayes nodded. While our diplomatic corps was signing treaties, Earth defense was preparing for this possibility. We have ships and personnel positioned throughout Federation space disguised as research vessels, cargo haulers, and private transports. Lieutenant Martinez studied the map with growing understanding. "We've been setting up a trap for 20 years. "Not a trap," Hayes corrected. "Insurance, we hope never to use it. But after New Seattle..." He let the words hang in the air. Chief Engineer Alan Rogers, a stocky man with a thick beard, pointed to several key systems on the map. "These are their primary defense networks and communication hubs." "Yes," Hayes confirmed. "And thanks to the Civilian Technology Exchange Program, many of them use operating systems designed by Earth companies." A slow smile spread across Rogers' face. "With backdoors built in, exactly. Dr. Linda Warren, the ship's medical officer, looked troubled. What about civilian casualties?" "We're better than them. We don't target innocent people." Hayes nodded. "This operation has been designed specifically to minimize civilian casualties. Our targets are military only." We disable, not destroy, whenever possible. He stood straight, looking each officer in the eye. Make no mistake, this is not a war of conquest. This is a calculated demonstration of power. The Federation pushed us too far, and now they need to understand that human patience is not unlimited. Lieutenant Martinez studied the tactical display. The Taurizian fleet that attacked New Seattle is still in orbit. They're celebrating their victory. Hayes' expression hardened. Not for long. Over the next 12 hours, the crew of the Defiance prepared. Weapons were checked, systems were tested. Messages were sent to the hidden human forces scattered throughout Federation space. The Taurizian commander, Admiral Zextral, was hosting a victory banquet on his flagship when the first signs of trouble appeared. His communication system suddenly went offline. Then his ship's artificial gravity flickered. Emergency lights bathed the confused Taurizian officers in red. "What is happening?" Zextral demanded. His technology officer frantically worked at his console. "Something is in our systems. It's bypassing all our security protocols." On the bridge of the Defiance, Hayes watched the Taurizian fleet on his viewscreen. One by one, their engines shut down, their weapons went offline. Their ships became dead. Metal in space. "All Taurizian vessels have been successfully neutralized," Martinez reported. "No casualties, no shots fired." Hayes nodded. "Open a channel to Admiral Zextral's ship." Zextral's face appeared on the screen. The Taurizian's scaled skin had turned pale with fear. "What have you done?" he demanded. "We've taken control of your fleet, Admiral," Hayes said calmly. "The same fleet that murdered 6,000 civilians. This is an act of war against the Federation." Hayes leaned forward. "No, Admiral. This is humanity showing you what we could have done at any time in the past 20 years if we were the barbarians you think we are." Hayes gestured, and the screen split to show images from across Federation space. Human operatives taking control of defense stations, communication hubs going dark, Federation military bases finding their advanced weapons suddenly useless. "Right now, similar operations are happening throughout Federation territory," Hayes explained. "We're not destroying, we're not killing. We're simply showing you what happens when humans decide diplomacy has failed." Zextral's eyes widened in horror as he understood. "All this time, you were just letting us think you were weak." "Not weak, Admiral. Hopeful. We genuinely wanted peace." His voice hardened. "Remember that when you report to your superiors, humanity preferred diplomacy. You forced our hand." Hayes cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "And now," he said quietly, "we wait for the Federation to decide if they want to talk again, this time as equals." Major George Rivera moved silently through the dimly lit corridors of the Taurizian Defense Ministry. His team of 6 Earth Special Forces operatives followed like shadows. They wore no military uniforms, just simple civilian clothes that helped them blend in with the local workers. None of them carried standard military weapons. They didn't need to. 3 days had passed since Captain Hayes had disabled the Taurizian fleet. Operation Silent Thunder was now in full effect across all Federation space. "Security checkpoint ahead," whispered Sergeant Lisa Collins through their secure comm channel. Collins was the team's tech specialist, a woman with short blonde hair and quick hands. 2 guards, standard security protocols. Rivera nodded. "Proceed as planned." Collins took out what looked like a normal Federation datapad. It was actually a sophisticated hacking device disguised as common technology. With a few taps, the security doors ahead slid open. The Taurizian guards looked up in confusion. Before they could react, Rivera's team was upon them. Quick, precise movements. No killing. The guards were unconscious in seconds, bound with restraints that looked like ordinary plastic ties but were stronger than steel. "We have 8 minutes before the shift change," Rivera said, checking his watch. "Move quickly." The team made their way to the central command center of the Taurizian military. Earth intelligence had mapped this building years ago under the guise of a diplomatic tour. The Taurizians had proudly shown off their advanced technology, never suspecting that the humans were taking careful notes about every weakness, Collins connected her device to the main terminal. I'm in, downloading their defense codes now. Rivera watched the door while the rest of the team secured the room. Through his earpiece, he could hear similar reports from 12 other teams on different Federation worlds. All proceeding as planned, no casualties. Minimal resistance. This was not how the Federation had expected humans to fight. They had expected brute force, direct confrontation, ships against ships. That was how the Federation waged war. Humans had learned a different approach through centuries of their own conflicts. Why destroy what you could control? Download complete, Collins reported. We now have access to their entire military network. Rivera nodded. Send the confirmation signal. Thousands of light years away, in the Earth Defense Force headquarters under the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Catherine Powell received the signal. She stood before the Earth Security Council, her uniform crisp, her expression serious. Operation Silent Thunder Phase 1 is complete, she announced. We now have control of defensive systems on 17 Federation worlds, including the Taurisian homeworld. We've secured their communication networks, navigation beacons, and power grids. President Diane Russell leaned forward in her chair. She was a tall woman with dark skin and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her eyes showed the weight of her decision. Casualties? She asked. None, Madam President. As ordered, we've used non-lethal methods only. The Defense Minister, Harold Cooper, nodded in approval. And the Federation's response? Confusion, primarily, Powell replied. Their military commands are in chaos. They never expected us to be able to penetrate their systems so completely. They still don't understand how we did it. We did it by being patient, Russell said quietly. For 20 years, we let them believe their technology was superior. We accepted their generous offers to help upgrade our systems, all while studying their weaknesses. Powell pulled up a holographic display showing Federation space. Red dots highlighted the locations of human operatives. The Taurisians have made 3 attempts to regain control of their fleet, she continued. All have failed. Their government is demanding the Federation Council take immediate action. And will they? Asked Russell. They've called an emergency session for tomorrow. Our intelligence suggests they're divided. Some species want to launch a full-scale war against Earth. Others are arguing for immediate negotiations. Russell stood and walked to the window. From the underground facility, the window didn't show the sky, but instead displayed a real-time view of Earth from orbit. It was a reminder of what they were protecting. Begin Phase 2, she ordered, on the Taurisian homeworld. Rivera received the new orders. His team moved from the Defense Ministry to their next target, the Planetary Broadcasting Center. Within an hour, they had control of all media outlets. We're ready, Major, Collins reported. Rivera nodded. Send the package. Across the Taurisian homeworld, every screen, every communication device, every public display suddenly showed the same images: the bombardment of New Seattle Colony, the death of 6,000 humans, the celebration afterward by Taurisian military officers. Following these images came the evidence: secret communications between Taurisian officials and certain Federation Council members planning the attack, financial transactions, military orders. The truth was now visible to every Taurisian citizen, and was being broadcast to every world in the Federation. In the Grand Chamber of the Federation Council, chaos erupted as the evidence appeared on every screen. The Aluxian representative, a tall being with 4 arms and luminescent skin, turned furiously to the Taurisian ambassador. You assured us this was a justified military action against human expansion, the Aluxian shouted. You said they had violated territorial agreements. The Taurisian ambassador, Vexamur, sputtered in anger. This is human propaganda. They've doctored these records. The Federation President, Kurilath, pounded his ceremonial staff for order. These are serious accusations. We must investigate, he was interrupted as the doors to the chamber opened. A single human entered. She wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Ambassador Ellen Carter walked calmly to the center of the chamber. Every alien representative fell silent. The Federation has failed, she said simply. You were created to prevent exactly this kind of aggression. Instead, some of you conspired to commit mass murder against my people. Ambassador Carter, Kareleth began, we had no knowledge. Every word spoken in this chamber is recorded, Carter interrupted. Those recordings have been accessed by Earth intelligence. We know which of you knew, which of you approved, which of you funded the attack. Fear spread across the faces of several council members. For 20 years, humanity has endured restrictions, prejudice, and exploitation, Carter continued. We accepted unfair treaties. We allowed you to limit our expansion. We did this because we believed peaceful cooperation was possible. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. The Federation mistook our patience for weakness. Our diplomacy for desperation. That ends today. Behind her, the screens showed new images. Federation military bases under human control. Defense networks compromised. The Taurasian fleet dead in space. Humanity did not want war, Ambassador Carter said. We still don't. But we will no longer tolerate being treated as lesser beings. She placed a data device on the central table. These are our terms for continued peace. You have 24 hours to accept them. With that, she turned and walked out, leaving the Federation Council in stunned silence. Commander Samantha Reeves watched the main view screen of the Earth battlecruiser Retribution. The disabled Taurasian warships floated helplessly in space. These were the same ships that had fired on New Seattle Colony, killing thousands of innocent people. Now they were powerless, their crews trapped inside without control of their own vessels. Boarding teams report complete control of all enemy ships, said Lieutenant Paul Johnson, a tall man with dark skin and steady hands. Their quantum defense systems never activated. Because we built backdoors into them 3 trade agreements ago, Reeves replied. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed satisfaction. What about the targeting data? Retrieved and verified. Commander, we have proof the civilian bombardment was planned and deliberate. The orders came directly from the Taurasian High Command with approval from members of the Federation Council. Reeves nodded. For 20 years, humans had played by the Federation's rules. They had accepted unfair treaties. They had smiled politely while being treated as primitive newcomers to the galactic community. All the while, they had been studying, learning, and preparing. Prepare the evidence package for distribution to all Federation worlds, she ordered, and open a channel to the Taurasian government. The face of Taurasian Prime Minister Draskar appeared on screen. His scaled skin had lost its healthy purple color, turning a pale lavender with stress. Commander Reeves, he said stiffly, your actions are an act of war against the sovereign Taurasian Empire and the entire Federation. No, Prime Minister, Reeves replied calmly. The unprovoked destruction of New Seattle Colony was an act of war. What you're seeing now is Earth's response. She gestured, and the screen split to show images of the attack on the human colony. Bodies in the streets, buildings in flames, Taurasian warships firing from orbit. We have recovered the targeting data from your fleet, Reeves continued. We know this was a planned operation, not a mistake or the action of a rogue commander. We know which members of your government approved it. Draskar's eyes widened. That information is classified at the highest level. Nothing is beyond our reach now, Prime Minister. Your military secrets, your private communications, your banking records. Reeves leaned forward. We know which Federation Council members took bribes to look the other way. What do you want? Draskar asked, his voice now trembling slightly. Justice. You have 6 hours to surrender all officials responsible for the New Seattle massacre. If you fail to comply, we will demonstrate what an actual bombardment looks like. The Taurasian's face showed shock. You would attack civilian targets? That would make you no better than we would target only military and government facilities, Reeves interrupted. Unlike you, we do not murder innocents, but make no mistake, Prime Minister. We will have justice for our people. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. Maintain control of the Taurasian fleet. Prepare our own weapon systems, but do not power them up yet. Let's give diplomacy one last chance to work. Across Federation space, the myth of human technological inferiority was unraveling. Species that had looked down on humans for decades were suddenly realizing how badly they had underestimated them. On the Aluxian homeworld, the ruling council watched in shock as their planetary defense grid went offline. A simple message appeared on all their screens. We could have done this at any time in the last 15 years. Remember that when you vote on the Federation's response to Earth's demands. The Vexery, who had been among the most vocal critics of humanity's admission to the Federation, found their prized battleship fleet suddenly locked in their docking stations, unable to deploy. Their military commanders received detailed reports of exactly how many weaknesses humans had identified in their supposedly superior technology. In her office on Earth, President Diane Russell reviewed the reports coming in from across Federation space. Operation Silent Thunder was proceeding exactly as planned. Minimal resistance, no casualties. Maximum psychological impact. The Federation Council has requested an emergency meeting with our ambassadors, reported Defense Minister Cooper. They're suddenly very eager to talk, Russell nodded. And the Taurisians? Prime Minister Drazker is currently addressing his people. Our operatives report he's preparing to comply with Commander Reeves' demands. Good. Russell looked at the holographic display showing Earth's forces throughout Federation space. What's the status of the Galactic Bank? Under our control, Madam President. We've frozen the accounts of all officials involved in the New Seattle attack. Russell allowed herself a small smile. Now they'll really pay attention. Nothing motivates politicians like touching their money. An alert sounded, and Admiral Powell entered the room. Madam President, we've just received word. The Taurisians are surrendering the officials responsible for the attack. 12 high-ranking military officers and 6 government officials, including their defense minister. And the Federation Council members who were involved? Russell asked. 3 have resigned already. 2 others are facing calls for their removal from their own governments. Russell nodded. It's a start. She walked to the window, looking at the view of Earth from orbit. 20 years, she said quietly. For 20 years we played their game. We let them think we were just happy to have a seat at the table. It was necessary, Madam President, Powell replied. We needed time to study them, to understand their weaknesses, to position our assets. I know, but after New Seattle, Russell's voice hardened. No more. The Federation needs to understand that humanity's patience is not unlimited. On the Retribution, Commander Reeves received confirmation that the Taurisian government was complying with Earth's demands. The officials responsible for the New Seattle attack were being handed over to human authorities. What now, Commander? Asked Lieutenant Johnson. Now we show them the difference between us and them, Reeves replied. We will have a fair trial for the accused. We will present the evidence. We will follow the rule of law. She looked at the disabled Taurisian ships on her view screen. And we will make sure the entire Federation watches. In the Grand Chamber of the Federation Council, the emergency session had been going for hours. Species that had been allies for centuries were now turning against each other. You assured us humans were a minor species that needed to be contained, shouted the Aluxian representative at the Taurisian ambassador. Now they've seized control of half our defense grid. Federation President Karolith struggled to maintain order. We clearly underestimated. They were never the barbarians you claimed. Interrupted the Vexery ambassador, her translucent skin flushing with anger. They were studying us, learning our weaknesses while you pushed them toward this response. Ambassador Ellen Carter entered the chamber again, her face composed and confident. The room fell silent immediately. The Federation stands at a crossroads, she said. For the first time, you are seeing humanity's true capabilities. The choice now is yours. Continue to treat us as inferiors and face the consequences, or accept a new relationship based on mutual respect. She placed a new data device on the central table. These are Earth's terms for a reformed federation. Equal representation. Fair trade agreements. Justice for New Seattle. She looked around the chamber. You have 24 hours to decide. The Emergency Federation Council session was in its third day. Species that had been peaceful allies for centuries now shouted accusations across the chamber. The Alexian representative slammed all four of his hands on the table in frustration. Your species assured us that humans were weak and needed to be contained, he yelled at the Taurasian ambassador. Now they control our defense networks, our banks, and our communication systems. Federation President Kurlath, a tall being with gray skin and 6 eyes, tried again to restore order. Please, we must approach this crisis with calm. Calm? The Vexery ambassador stood up, her translucent skin glowing with anger. The humans have exposed corruption at the highest levels of the Federation. 3 council members took bribes to approve an attack on a civilian colony. There's nothing calm about this situation. On the observation deck above the chamber, Major. George Rivera watched with Lieutenant Lisa Collins. Their mission now was to observe and report back to Earth. They wore the uniforms of Federation security personnel, a disguise that no one questioned. They're falling apart, Collins said quietly. Just as we predicted, Rivera nodded. The Federation has never faced a challenge like this. They've always been the ones with the power. Below them, the debate continued to rage. Some species called for immediate war against Earth, promising to crush the humans with overwhelming force. Others argued for accepting all of Earth's demands, fearful of what other secrets humans might have hidden. The most interesting thing, Rivera observed, is that none of them understand what we really want. Collins looked at him. Which is? Justice, respect, equality. Rivera's eyes remained fixed on the arguing council members. Not domination. If we wanted to rule them, we could have taken control of their life support systems instead of just their weapons. The chamber doors opened, and Ambassador Ellen Carter entered again. The room fell silent immediately. Though she was just one human woman of average height, her presence now commanded the attention of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Federation has had 3 days to consider Earth's terms, she said, her voice calm but firm. Your time is up. What is your answer? President Kurlath stepped forward. Ambassador Carter, the Council has been deliberating without rest. This is a complex situation that requires— It is not complex, President Kurlath, Carter interrupted. It is very simple. For 20 years, the Federation has treated humanity as second-class members. You have restricted our expansion, imposed unfair trade terms, and most recently some of you conspired to murder our citizens. All we ask now is to be treated as equals. The Xanthi representative, a small being with feathered skin, spoke up. But your demands would completely restructure the Federation. Equal representation for all species would diminish the influence of the founding members who built this alliance. Carter smiled slightly. Yes, that is precisely the point. The current structure has failed. It allowed corruption and genocide. It must change. She looked around the chamber. Earth does not wish to destroy the Federation. We believe in its stated ideals of cooperation and peace. But those ideals must apply to all members, not just the privileged few. On Earth, President Diane Russell was addressing the United Nations. Representatives from all human nations listened intently as she explained what had happened and what was to come. For 20 years, we extended our hand in friendship to the galactic community, she said. For 20 years, we endured restrictions, prejudice, and exploitation. We accepted unfair treaties and rigged trade agreements. We did this because we believed peaceful cooperation was possible. She paused, her expression hardening. The massacre at New Seattle has proven otherwise. The Federation mistook our patience for weakness, our diplomacy for desperation. That ends today. The hall erupted in applause. When it quieted, Russell continued. Operation Silent Thunder has shown the Federation what humanity is truly capable of. We have demonstrated that we could have taken control of their systems at any time in the past 15 years. We have shown them that our technology is not inferior to theirs as they believed. And most importantly, we have shown them the difference between us and them. She looked directly at the cameras broadcasting her speech across Earth and to human colonies on other worlds. We have not killed a single being. We have not destroyed any civilian property. We have targeted only military assets and the financial accounts of those directly responsible for the attack. This is justice, not revenge. Back in the Federation Council chamber, Ambassador Carter waited as the representatives huddled in small groups, whispering urgently to each other. Finally, President Kurleth approached her. The Council has reached a decision, he said, his voice heavy. We accept Earth's terms with one condition. Carter raised an eyebrow. Which is? That humans help us rebuild the Federation into something better than it was. Your species has shown wisdom and restraint that many of us lack. We need your guidance. Carter considered this for a moment. I will convey your acceptance and your condition to my government. As she left the chamber, Rivera and Collins followed, at a discreet distance. Did you expect that? Collins asked quietly. Rivera shook his head. No, I expected them to fight harder, to resist more. Maybe they're smarter than we thought? Or maybe they're just very good at recognizing which way the wind is blowing. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain William Hayes received the news from Federation space. The Council had accepted Earth's terms. The officials responsible for the New Seattle attack were in custody and would stand trial. A new era was beginning. Lieutenant Olivia Martinez stood beside him, looking at the planet below where New Seattle had once stood. Was it worth it? She asked softly. All those lives lost to bring us to this point? Hayes shook his head. No, nothing could make that worth it. But at least their deaths won't be meaningless. He turned to face her. The Federation now understands that humans aren't the barbarians they thought we were. We're something much more dangerous. What's that? Patient. We waited 20 years for fair treatment. When it didn't come, we showed them exactly what we're capable of. Hayes looked back at the view screen showing the stars. And we did it without becoming like them. Martinez nodded slowly. What happens now? Now we rebuild. New Seattle will rise again. The Federation will be restructured. And humanity will take its rightful place as equals in the galactic community. He paused, his expression growing serious. But they'll never underestimate us again. They'd pushed us too far, and now they've seen what humans do when diplomacy fails. On the Taurisian homeworld, the trial of those responsible for the New Seattle attack had begun. It was being broadcast across all Federation space. Major Rivera and his team ensured that the proceedings were fair, transparent, and followed proper legal procedures. The humans could have executed us without trial, one Taurisian citizen said to another as they watched the proceedings. Why didn't they? Because, answered the other, they are showing us the difference between power and justice. They have both. Throughout Federation space, species that had once looked down on humans now watch them with new eyes. The primitives from Earth had revealed themselves to be patient, cunning, and most surprisingly of all, merciful in victory. The message was clear: humanity preferred peace but was prepared for war. They had chosen restraint when they could have chosen destruction. And that, perhaps, was the most frightening revelation of all. 6 months had passed since Operation Silent Thunder. Captain William Hayes stood on the observation platform overlooking the construction site below. Where New Seattle Colony had once been reduced to smoking craters, a new city was rising. Workers from a dozen different Federation species labored alongside humans, rebuilding what had been destroyed. It's coming along well, said Lieutenant Olivia Martinez, now wearing the insignia of Hayes' executive officer. The Aluxian construction techniques really speed things up, Hayes nodded. The new buildings will be stronger than before. Better. Protected. Do you think we'll need those protections? Martinez asked. Hayes considered the question. I hope not. But we won't make the same mistake twice. Trust, but verify. Below them, the Earth Embassy was nearly complete. The building stood at the center of the new city, its design incorporating architectural elements from many Federation worlds. It was both a symbol of cooperation and a statement. Humans were here to stay. The CUM unit on Hayes' wrist beeped. Captain, the Federation representatives have arrived. They're being escorted to the conference room now. Thank you, Hayes replied. We'll be right there. As they walked through the corridors of the temporary command center, Hayes and Martinez passed humans and aliens working side by side. 6 months ago, such cooperation would have seemed impossible. The attack on New Seattle had nearly started a war. Instead, it had led to a new beginning. In the conference room, Hayes found a dozen Federation representatives waiting. Each had been chosen to serve on the new Galactic Cooperation Council that was replacing the old Federation structure. Among them was Kurlath, now serving as a regular representative rather than as president. "Captain Hayes," Kurlath greeted him, bowing slightly. "It is good to see you again." Hayes returned the gesture. "Welcome to New Seattle, Representative Kurlath." The other representatives looked around nervously. Many of them had never set foot on a human world before. Some had been vocal critics of humanity in the past. "Before we begin," said Avexery, Representative, her translucent skin shifting colors with emotion, "I wish to express my species' formal apology for our role in the events that led to the attack on this colony. We were wrong about humans." Hayes nodded in acknowledgement. "Thank you, Representative. The past cannot be changed, but we can build a better future together." The meeting began, with discussion focusing on the final details of the new galactic charter that would be signed later that day. The document represented months of negotiations, compromises, and hard-won agreements. At its core was a simple principle: all member species would have equal representation and rights. "There is one final matter to discuss," said the Xanthi representative, a small being covered in colorful feathers. "The trial of those responsible for the attack." Hayes tensed slightly. The trial had been a point of contention for months. Some Federation species had argued that the Teresians should be judged by their own legal system. Earth had insisted on a mixed tribunal with judges from multiple worlds, including Earth. "The final verdicts will be announced tomorrow," Hayes said. "The evidence has been presented. Justice will be done." "And what is justice to humans?" asked a Teresian representative, one of the few not implicated in the attack. "Your species has shown remarkable restraint. You could have destroyed our worlds. Instead, you disabled our ships and demanded a fair trial." Hayes met the Teresian's eyes. "Justice is not about revenge. It's about accountability and preventing future harm. The guilty will be punished, but we will not condemn an entire species for the actions of the few." The meeting concluded, and the representatives prepared for the signing ceremony. As they filed out, Kurlath remained behind. "Captain Hayes," he said quietly, "there is something I have wondered about since your Operation Silent Thunder. Your species had the ability to take control of our systems for years. Why wait until after the attack? Why not use that power earlier?" Hayes considered the question carefully. "Because we still believed diplomacy could work. We developed those capabilities as a last resort, not as a first option." "And now?" Kurlath asked. "Now that the galaxy knows what humans are capable of?" "Now we hope to never need such measures again," Hayes replied. "But make no mistake, Representative. We will not forget the lesson of New Seattle. Humanity's patience is not unlimited." Later that day, on a stage set up in the center of the rebuilding city, representatives from all Federation worlds gathered for the signing ceremony. Earth's President Diane Russell stood before them, her expression solemn but hopeful. "Today marks a new beginning," she said. "Not just for humanity, but for all species who believe in cooperation, mutual respect, and peace." She looked out at the gathered crowd of humans and aliens. 6 months ago, this colony was destroyed in an act of aggression. Today we rebuild it together. 6 months ago, the Federation stood on the brink of war with Earth. Today we forge a new alliance based on equality. The new Galactic Charter was signed, first by Russell, then by each representative. As the ceremony concluded, President Russell approached the Teresian representative. "My people are curious," she said. "Now that you've seen what humans are truly capable of, what do you think of us?" The Teresian considered for a moment. "I think your species is the most frightening we have ever encountered." Russell raised an eyebrow. "Because of our technology? Our ability to infiltrate your systems?" "No, the Taurasian replied. Because you could have destroyed us and you chose not to. Because you had the power to conquer, and instead you demanded only to be treated as equals. Because when pushed beyond endurance, you responded with precision and restraint rather than blind rage. The alien looked out at the construction site where humans and aliens work side by side. The galaxy has always understood species that respond to attack with greater attack. That is simple, but your kind ... double quote, the Taurasian shook his head. You are something new, something more dangerous than mere warriors. President Russell smiled slightly. We're just people who prefer to talk before we fight. But when talking fails ... double quote, yes, the Taurasian said. The galaxy has seen what happens then. On the edge of the construction site, Captain Hayes stood with Lieutenant Martinez, watching the sun set over the new city. Do you think it will last? Martinez asked. This new peace? Hayes looked at the aliens and humans working together to rebuild what had been destroyed. I think it has a better chance now than ever before. They understand us better, and we understand them, Martinez added. Hayes nodded. That's the real victory here. Not that we showed our strength, but that we showed our restraint. Not that we defeated them, but that we chose justice over vengeance. He turned to look at the memorial that had been erected near the embassy. On it were inscribed the names of all who had died in the attack on New Seattle. Beneath the names was a simple message in multiple languages. We came in peace. Remember why that changed. The next time someone thinks humans are easy targets, Hayes said quietly, they'll remember New Seattle. They'll remember what happened when the Alien Federation pushed too far. They'll remember what humans do when diplomacy fails. Martinez looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. And what do humans do, Captain? Hayes smiled slightly. We win, but we don't forget how to be human while doing it. As night fell over New Seattle, ships from a dozen worlds moved in peaceful orbits above. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity preferred diplomacy, but when pushed too far, they were capable of far more than anyone had imagined. And perhaps most importantly, they knew how to use power with wisdom. The Federation had pushed too far. They had seen what humans do without diplomacy, and they would never make that mistake again.